Commissioner Arasi?
Here.
Commissioner Holland? Commissioner Sheard?
Here.
Commissioner Jensen?
Here.
Vice Chairperson Jenkins?
Here.
And Chairperson Durling.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May be seated. Do we have anyone here for non-agenda items?
Mr. Chairperson, we do not have any blue speaker cards for this item, or for any of the items.
Okay, we will move into approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second. Go ahead. Get that thing on.
Oops. Motion carries with 4 yeses and 2 absent.
We will move into the public hearings. Right into item number 2, minor use permit for outdoor storage and vehicle parking at 3022 Olive Highway. Staff report, please.
Okay, this project is for a use permit to allow outdoor storage over 250 square feet and a parking lot as a primary use in the MXC zoning district. The project site is next to Oil Changers and is the site that was previously Grant's swimming hole. The building will be used as an office, and the rear fenced gravel parking lot would be used as vehicle parking of operable vehicles and outdoor storage. Access to the rear is with a 10-foot wide gate. The applicant has provided photos of the existing lighting, security, and landscaping at the site. Slats will be added to the chain link fence to address screening concerns, and the applicant has provided photos of the lighting at the site, which I will now show. The applicant has addressed all of staff concerns as far as screening, security, and their existing landscaping and trash enclosures, and staff's recommending approval.
Thank you. We'll open for public hearing. And seeing nobody here, we will close the public hearing and limit discussion between staff and committee members. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
So it's vehicle storage for the business that they have next door?
Right, for the business that they have next door, which is the Oil Changers. The applicant was here for the Development Review Committee hearing and described that that would be the purpose of the vehicle storage. Operable vehicles, 2010 or newer, I believe he said.
How long would each vehicle be stored? Like, their cars are just getting worked on, so is this just
Right.
quick turnaround?
Right, just quick turnaround.
Because they have the bays over there, so is there any definition for how long cars can be stored?
We can certainly put a condition that would say, I mean, to your satisfaction, which could be, we should discuss that now, 2-3 days, 1 day, no overnight.
With the limited availability of parts, it's taking longer for parts to come in when ordered to repair cars, so I would say no more than 30 days.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would feel better with that because it just seems like sometimes you see these vehicle storage places and pretty soon there's just a lot of cars stored there.
Yeah.
And then I was wondering the screening so it's going to go through the chain link fence? Is that
Right, so slats for the chain link
Okay.
fence, he's already ordered, and there's existing landscaping, and the lighting is adequate.
Yeah. the front building's good. Yeah, so I wouldn't have a problem with it at all, as long as the vehicles don't stay longer than 30 days. I think that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Anyone else agreed with that?
So we'll add that as a condition, and we'd ask that you delegate that to staff, that we create that condition.
I mean, that doesn't sound unreasonable. I mean, I'd like to hear from the applicant to make sure that that's doable and reasonable on their part, but,
I know.
yeah.
He
I
said
mean,
he
I would
did
assume
tonight.
so, but,
We can ask the applicant, if that doesn't seem reasonable, we could put a cap on it of 60 days. So we'll start with the 30. If that doesn't work, if the consensus of the planning commission is 60 days, we could do an absolute cap of 60 days.
I like that plan,
What's
thank
his
you.
main business?
It's the lube and oil shop next door, adjacent to this building. And then there's a mechanic shop at the rear of that,
Okay,
so.
yeah, I don't know why you store a car for lube and oil change.
It's
That's-
for the mechanic
Exactly.
shop at the rear.
And so he's gonna put redwood slats in the fences, so you won't, it's gonna be fully screened?
We haven't seen what that will look like yet, but he has ordered slats for the chain link fence.
But the requirement is fully screened.
Right, and that's to address the screening concerns brought to him by staff.
I think I also saw where it says something about cars 2010 and newer.
Right, so the idea is that he's not going to have cars that are inoperable vehicles stored at that site.
I mean, who monitors that?
Well, and that's the concern. If we do fully screened, there's gonna be very little visibility to monitor it from the roadway. So it would be difficult for code enforcement to monitor that as well.
It's a pretty narrow lot. The building takes up a lot of the lot anyways.
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, if it's fully screened, I think that's the main thing for me, is
Yeah.
having it screened.
Yeah,
For me, though, it also is more than the year of the car. It's just making sure that it doesn't become a place where cars die. I've seen other places where it's like the car should really be towed away, and they're never towed away, and I feel like towing away is an expense. So I personally think it's really important that we don't just allow cars to be stored there till they die, 'cause
Well, I
then they
mean, is
never
there-
move.
I mean, I don't want to micromanage it, but is there a way that, they have a list, this car came in June 1st and it needs to be out by August 1st?
they would check in the cars when they receive them from the customer. They would do an intake and then wait for parts to be ordered, and it would sit in the other yard contained.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, I would think that'd be adequate enough time. 30 days would be adequate.
Yeah.
I mean,
And my understanding, Danny, is that they don't have the on-site storage at the current location to increase business. This would allow them
Right.
to increase business.
Which is awesome. Yep.
That's correct.
yeah, but they're just turning cars that will run, right? It's
Yes.
not gonna be, like you
Well,
said,
Right.
He's not gonna make money if he's holding a car that's not running.
right, but someone might bring a car there and then it just,
They don't pick it
they
up.
leave it, it
Yeah.
sits,
But
like,
that's taking up
again,
valuable real estate for another vehicle that he could be working
Yeah.
on.
on Montgomery. How long has that one BMW SUV been there? 3 years with no front end on it.
We can
Right here.
report that to code enforcement.
No, I know, I'm just.
Yeah,
I mean,
It just happens.
If it was screened, it'd be better,
right.
but.
It's supposed, all of this type of vehicle storage is supposed to be screened. I think that's per city code, at least downtown,
Yes.
in a retail area. That is the code.
Well, this has been there forever, so,
I know, that's existing non-conforming.
yeah. That's all I have.
Does the motion need to have that in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Open for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this use and add in the limit that the cars can be stored there. And I like what Warren added in, so however
So
we're
add
gonna
in
say
a
that.
condition for 30 days,
Consultation with
not
the
to exceed 60.
applicant, yeah.
In case there's something we're missing that we don't understand, that 30 days is not good. We want to work with them.
Yes.
So I don't know how you write that in.
I think that sounded reasonable to me, so I'll second.
Staff will draft it.
Thank you.
If that works, can we have a second?
Jensen seconded it.
Okay.
Did you
we're
second it? I did. Oh, you did.
Open for a motion, please, or open for a vote, please.
Motion carries with 4 yeses and 2 absent.
Thank you. We will move to item 3. Minor use permit for a tire shop at 3163 Olive Highway. Staff report, please.
Okay, for this project, which is across from Extra Self-Storage on Olive Highway, the staff have drafted a zoning interpretation to allow the proposed use, subject to a conditional use permit. The zoning is corridor mixed use, or MXC, where vehicle service and repair is not allowed. However, this property has been used as a tire shop in previous years. There are similar uses in this zoning district nearby along Olive Highway, and the MXC zoning district allows uses which are considered more commercially intensive. The nearby similar and or more intensive uses are oil changers, extra self-storage, and Big O tires. The MXC zoning district allows large equipment repair services, manufacturing, metalwork, and parking garages by use permit, all of which are of similar or higher intensity. It has been some time since this facility was used as a tire shop, and the building department has indicated that a tenant improvement plan will be needed prior to occupancy. Also required will be a permanent trash enclosure, which must be gated, covered, and compliant with the enclosures for solid waste and recyclable materials ordinance. Landscaping, parking, site access, and lighting are existing and in good condition with the exception of the eastern access driveway closest to Foothill Boulevard. The State Route 152 improvement project is planned to begin construction this year and would affect this site. The city engineer has recommended a condition that the applicant either abandon this driveway closest to Foothill Boulevard, improve the driveway to the standard of the State Route 152 improvement project, or pay an in lieu fee. The in lieu fee would be the cheapest way for the applicant to maintain use of the driveway, and the applicant may decide which of these options is preferable, and then the project conditions would be amended accordingly. Since applicant does not appear to be attending by Zoom, we would ask that a commission delegate to staff working out this addition to the conditions. Staff's recommending approval.
Thank you. We'll open this for public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak on this item?
Mr. Chairperson, I do not have any blue speaker cards.
Thank you. We'll close public hearing and limit discussion between commissioners and staff. Questions or comments for staff or amongst yourself?
Are all tire shops as neat as Executive Tire right here on Montgomery? It's just, it seems like tire shops are typically just clean and neat. There's never any extra cars or anything around. It seems like it's, so there's no way that there would be cars left there.
Apart from vehicles that are currently being worked on or planned to being worked on and are parked there because they're scheduled to be worked on that day or
Yeah.
perhaps the following day, we haven't drafted a condition to prevent vehicles from being stored there long term, but we can do that.
Can you put the photo back?
The Google Maps,
Yeah, that one. See that car?
right?
It's still there. Is it part of the property improvements?
That car, we'll ask, it will likely be removed.
No, but I mean,
Right.
can we make it a requirement? Can they screen that?
Screen, absolutely. We
Okay.
can make that a requirement.
Yeah, if we can screen it like the next guy or the last guy, to where you can't see inside that yard,
Yeah.
that would be super nice.
The concern that always comes with screening, and when you have vehicles behind there, the tenant doesn't own the vehicles and there's concern for theft, so visibility helps in that case from the roadway. But at the same time, screening would be helpful, yes.
I'd say that's,
Got barbed wire up there.
I mean, I'd say that's an option if they're going to have that for storage. My impression from the DRC meeting is that they weren't sure if they were going to even do anything with that part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if they're not going to do anything with that, there's no need to screen it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we can put a condition at such time that they intend to use that eastern portion of the property that we would require them to screen it.
If they store cars there. If you don't store cars.
They're gonna store something there.
Oh,
They're just gonna, if it's old tires or something.
They haven't intended to use it at this point.
Outdoor storage up to 250 square feet would be permitted, but above 250 square feet would require an amendment to their use permit. They haven't applied for that.
But again, who's gonna monitor it? I'm just thinking that you drive by, you're gonna see mounds of tires.
Well, if that were to be over 250 square feet, it would become a code enforcement
Yes.
issue. Yeah, that is something that's monitored.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Open to a motion with the added conditions if anybody would like.
Well, can we add the condition that, for screening, if they're gonna store anything there?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah,
I do have some to say, like, there is a creek there, if they're doing tires, it might cause a lot of mosquito.
Yes, and also if you wish to address the planning commission, could we have you come up to the microphone, please, so that, because it's being recorded. Thank you. But yes, the comment was there is a creek there, so the tires could pose an issue for mosquitoes. Again, proper storage of tires. If they're not storing it appropriately, that's something that could be addressed with the code enforcement department.
I imagine they're considered hazardous too, so there's probably a list of.
what is, yeah, how
There's
is
proper
Big O-
storage for it.
Yeah.
How do they store them? How do the other tire companies store their tires?
I think they store them inside and only what they keep in stock. Otherwise, it
I don't think it's
poses
like,
a-
I don't think it's like things used to be where they could just have piles of tires
Yeah.
around.
Okay.
I think even transporting tires, you're only allowed to just transport a certain number without a permit.
it
Yeah,
becomes an environmental hazard.
yeah,
And they have to be disposed of properly and you have to get receipted and so on.
yeah. That's fine, I just, you know.
They're
sometimes things
regulated.
Just, you know,
I understand.
no one pays attention and then pretty soon we have a mountain of tires.
That becomes a
Absolutely.
fire hazard as well.
Yeah.
Still open for motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve use permit 23-07 with the addition of the screening. Okay,
As an option, if they're going to use the
They're gonna store.
if they're going to store at the back of the property.
Correct.
Right? Okay. I'll go ahead and second.
Motion and a second. Voting, please.
Motion carries with 4 yeses and 2 absent.
Thank you. And item 4 will be June.
Right, so we're asking that you table that until June 22nd, the next planning commission meeting, as the applicant did not have their site plan prepared.
Do we need to do anything to make that official?
You just need to say this item is tabled till June 22nd at 6 PM.
We will table this item till June 22nd at 6 PM. And we will move on to commissioner reports. Anybody?
Did you want to go
Yeah.
first for the Historic Advisory Commission?
Yes, so we've been meeting our Historic Preservation Award. And we have really finalized it we have a whole list of sponsors and we have our brochure, which I've handed out to you. And we have a timeline. So with the State of the City that we had at the State Theater, that is the goal for the main presentation to the people who will receive the award. So it'll give the city council, they can honor them with the award, and then members of this committee, the chairman, could talk about what is the important historical aspects and why those buildings or places were chosen. And as far as taking applications or suggestions, I mean, really, this committee is supposed to nominate it, but we're also putting it out all around with brochures and to the public, so anyone can nominate someone that meets the criteria that's in the brochure. And then there'll be a page on the city website. So we're very excited about it. I'm just very excited because it's gonna be something that's gonna be at that state of the city that will really be able to show off these beautiful buildings that people have worked so hard for. And then besides honoring them at that event, we will also have a reception at the different places if that works out, and have the sponsors there, and just really try to bring a lot of recognition to people who have worked so hard to restore these beautiful buildings. So our goal is like by the end of January to have all of our nominees picked,
Correct.
or actually who we're choosing by the end of January.
We will have a deadline by the end of January. The planning commission will make their selection at the February meeting. It will go to
Okay.
council in March, and then whenever the state of the city may be in April or May, it'll be awarded at that time.
Okay.
Any other commissioner reports? I guess I was historical advisory.
Yes.
Staff reports?
Yes, Commissioners, a while ago, I think in March, this commission approved the color palette for the City of Paris facade. And the applicant brought in the actual paint colors. That's the single piece of paper there that has the actual paint on them to confirm that, in fact, the electronic version, may not be exactly what it's going to look like, but he brought in that piece of paper. Today, we have learned that the tile at the bottom is needing to be replaced, and applicant Brian Wong has brought samples to show. This is an informational item unless the commission determines that they want to go back and review it and discuss it further. But right now it's an informational item, and I'd like to invite Brian to come on up and talk to us a little bit about this.
Nice. Very solid. These aren't going to move.
Yes.
Very solid.
Yeah, so basically, based on the approved color palette, the designer spec'd out some quartz panels that are not recommended for outdoor use. So due to the increased expansion and contraction on quartz, it does not stick to the wall well. So we're going with granite, which is very stable, and that's going to be on the outside of the buildings. And being natural granites, the colors, there's variations and patterns in them. So we're going to just try and match the original design as best as we can with natural products.
This will be the new?
So we have those two selections right there that we're considering. And as you can see from the design, the color palette is mainly to make it like a little darker, so it's kind of like grounding the building. And that's the whole theme. So we're not going to go with any light colors on it. So whatever color we select will be based off of the design that you see, which is like a darker color that gives the building the grounding.
It's beautiful. Thank you. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
Gosh, but
Well-
these are both just beautiful.
Well, things happen and mistakes cost money, and that's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a lot of weight.
It is. Yeah, I think that'll be very stable.
Okay, a few more reports. Staff will be hosting a preliminary visit with 2 members of the American Planning Association who have agreed to pro bono planning services to strategize a revitalization effort for South Oroville. The 2 planners will meet with the mayor and city administrator and plan out their visit in July. The city council has agreed to cover their food and lodging while they work on our behalf. And that will be June 6th when they come for the preliminary visit. We're also finalizing our draft of the alfresco outdoor dining ordinance, and we'll present this next month at both the Development Review Committee meeting and Planning Commission meeting. The language of the ordinance has not changed since the original draft, but the map has been expanded to include more of the downtown and the gateway. We have begun discussions about modifying our mobile food vendor ordinance to include as a use permit a food truck village or food truck park, which would be 2 or more mobile food vendors on the same parcel. There will be some changes made to our existing ordinance and the administrative permit process for an individual mobile food vendor as well. For upcoming projects at DRC, we will only have the one review for the 1475 Pine Street remodel. This is 5 units, one of which will be designed and marketed as an office space. And then there will be one more project, which is a use permit, which will also go to Planning Commission. The other project is for Bliss Fusion Lake Oroville, which is a medical corporation which provides hydration and vitamin injections. And this will require a use permit to operate in an existing mixed-use building at 670 Oro Dam Boulevard, Suite 101. That's all I have for staff reports.
I have sad news and good news, so I'll start with the sad news first. Our Mr. Kopshever will be leaving us for another opportunity in another jurisdiction, so his last day will be June 9th. We have greatly appreciate all the work that he has put in for the last year that he's, a little over a year, that he's been with the city of Oroville, and he will be greatly missed. So thank you for all your time you've put in.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah. On another note, for the rebranding project, we have received our final presentation today from the consultants. It was a wonderful presentation. We were all giddy with excitement to roll it out, but that will be coming soon. So in the next couple of months, bits and pieces will be rolled out and a final presentation will come forward for you. So positive things on the horizon for our community.
Excellent.
Was there an item that was delayed that we were supposed to get to and it is being delayed farther?
Yes, that would be the remodel and rezoning of 2255 Bird Street, I
Bird
believe.
Street, the old Motor Lodge.
The old Motor Lodge.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's kind of gone back to the drawing board. Their submittal wasn't adequate, so
Okay.
they're working on that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah, these planners that are going to be coming and helping out with South Oroville, you said that they're coming for, was it an initial meeting on Tuesday the 6th, or?
Yes, on June 6th, it'll just be a preliminary meeting. They're going to meet with staff and they'll strategize for their meeting in July.
And that's when the charrette's going to be in July?
Yes, yes.
That's correct.
We'll get a notice of when that's going to be, right? Because I'd kind of like to listen in. I'm not a member of that community, but I'd like to listen in to what they'd say, so.
It'll be publicly noticed, and all commissioners and all council members would be invited to attend if they so desired.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
And I have a question about how the food truck ordinance is being put together, and how are we taking into consideration the restaurants that we have and what we can handle, and where the food trucks would be. So how is that connecting with the businesses that we already have, or to make sure that we're not taking away any, business from the restaurants that are brick and mortar? Or that they're complementary, I guess would be the way that I want to say that. How are we making sure that it's a complementary endeavor that strengthens downtown?
I'll let Mr. Kopshever jump in.
Well, it is preliminary in nature at this point. We've gotten increased interest about mobile food vendors and mobile food vendor parks. So we're trying to address that by creating an ordinance. And essentially, they'll be treated as restaurants themselves. They're going to need to provide everything that a restaurant would provide. As far as locations, they're going to be using existing lots that can provide the services that they would need to provide. We're not really able to regulate exactly where they go, but we'll be able to look at them with a case-by-case basis since it'll require a use permit.
Did the state of California kind of make this like a right a while back to do mobile food vending?
Not for mobile food vending villages, but for mobile food vending, there's been some regulations that have made it easier,
So
essentially.
it's not like us putting an overlay for something like that.
That hasn't been the idea yet to do something like that. And the current process is an administrative permit. So this change would be a use permit to allow multiple food vendors to exist in one site. Because that's the inquiries that we've been getting.
The state law specifically spoke to carts, like fruit carts and ice cream carts and things that are pushed around neighborhoods. One could interpret it to include food trucks. However, many other jurisdictions have in their ordinances distance requirements away from existing restaurants or from other food trucks or from other places that might be risky or might be competitive. So we will look at that to see what we want to do there. It sounds like you do have some concerns about setting up a bunch of food truck village across in Lot A across from all our downtown restaurants.
I do. I think it's really important that we make sure that there's a good synergy, that this is working for, that it's, and I think that has to be thought through, and I'm not exactly sure of the answers, but I don't want to just all of a sudden, because people want to have food trucks, we're just going to have a whole bunch of them. So.
We'll certainly be asking for input as we brainstorm and create
And
the
from the
ordinance.
current restaurants, I think would be extremely important.
Has Reading recently done
Brian,
something
wanna
like that?
talk?
I don't know about Reading, but Danny has researched other jurisdictions, Santa Rosa, Sacramento, many other jurisdictions, and we've kind of adapted pieces of those that we feel would fit our community.
The one interest we have in a food truck village that has sort of triggered this is in a vacant lot next to Home Depot, which is not near any current restaurants or anything. So that would not be an issue for this one, but we've had other inquiries as well in locations that we don't know about yet.
Do you want to add anything? Is that okay if we ask Brian?
Yep. Come on up.
Restaurant experience, so I'll add a little bit to it. I think mainly with the food trucks, if you have a permanent location, first and foremost is you got to protect the public. So having adequate like bathroom facilities, hand washing stations there, not dependent on the temporary facilities inside the truck itself, but they have to have access to something close by. So I think those are the requirements, and which makes a lot of sense. So like, yeah, if it's like far from restaurants and everything else and they want to do like events, that's totally fine. Even within like, downtown areas, if they want to do events like, one night a month or something like that, that's totally fine. It adds to the atmosphere. It brings more people into an area. But if somebody wants to set up like, say, something closer to restaurants, then that needs to be looked at carefully, because the brick and mortars have to do a lot more than the trucks do in terms of conducting a business. So when we have health departments come into our facilities, they look at us almost like we're like a laboratory. They really go through everything and they have a checklist. And like nowadays, trucks, they're allowed to also prep like, food in like a home commissary, which is not like what we do inside restaurants. So there's, so we have to look at all, the restaurants have to do a lot more, and we have to give them like a little bit of protection. So with that said, that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right now, they're all in front of A1 Appliance, right? You've got Righteous Burger has a trailer there,
Yeah.
another truck,
There's several locations.
yeah. And the Valero, right? Is it still a Valero gas station on Oro Dam? There's always a truck there.
And I don't know how you know this, but does the presence of a food truck village take away from nearby existing restaurants, or does it create an attraction for people to come who want to go out to eat? This is the area that you go to, and do you increase business at other
how
ancillary
you-
businesses? You know,
that's how
I don't
you
know.
want the
I don't know.
ordinance,
I don't know how you know that before you
Yeah.
experiment, but
Right.
that's.
Is there seating at a food truck village? Is there a portable washing station or a
Those would be
portable
the
restroom?
requirements that we're addressing. So it would have to be accessible site for ADA. There would have to be an accessible restroom, hand washing station, refuse. If they have seating, it has to be accessible and it has to be portable. It has to be hidden in the evening hours when they go away, or stored somewhere. So there's the building department has to be fully involved in this as well. So we're not just going to give somebody a use permit to go and put a food truck anywhere. There's a lot of requirements that will come with it. We're even discussing paving of the location and striping of parking, should it become a food truck village. So there's many requirements that will come along with this to ensure that it's not just any location that's going to hinder another business.
So who's requesting food truck villages? Are they the food trucks themselves? Are they property owners that want to bring food trucks to them?
Property owners so
Okay.
far.
Okay. I had no idea, so.
Can anybody just get a food truck and do it, or do you have to be on a list? Is it a rotation of food trucks? Is it,
So far, anybody that applies for the food truck permit gets a business license and has their food truck inspected and approved by the health department, can go into business.
okay.
Yes,
you.
we've been discussing
Important.
this.
It'll be
Important
fun.
discussion.
Yeah, we've been discussing this quite regularly recently and with our city attorney as well.
Thank you. If that's it, we will adjourn to June 22nd, 2023 at 6 PM.
It's quick.